Hey everybody, it's Golmadex, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we're going to be playing another Arena Cube draft. Without further ado, let's get into our pack one, pick one, and I am sorry to anybody who wants me to stop playing red, because it's not going to happen when we open packs with Embercleave and Inferno Titan in the pack one. I don't think there's really anything outside of the red cards here that is quite that quality. Honestly, there's some decent filler additions, like the Graveyard Recursion of Nantuko Slicer here at a green, the clone of Phyrexian Metamorph in blue, but these cards are just incredible win conditions. The Inferno Titan for any deck that can make it to 6 mana, and the Embercleave for decks that are really aggressive to be attacking with a bunch of creatures. This can find lethal out of absolutely nowhere. So, are we feeling more aggressive today, or do we want something that is a little bit more flexible? My issue here is that I think neither of these is going to come back no matter what we do. And if I take Inferno Titan, or actually if I take Embercleave even, either way we're sending a decent red signal to the left, at least in my opinion, but maybe there's people that really like Preacher the Schism, Knight of the Ebon Legion, these kind of little black aggro cards or something here. I don't know. Am I feeling aggressive or not is the big question. I'm just going to take Inferno Titan, because honestly, even if we are aggressive, that's going to be a good top-end card, and if we aren't, it's going to be significantly better. If we are a control deck, this can still be just a good 6-drop finisher. Pick number 2, there is nothing great for aggro. Dragon Master Outcast is a very slow card. Into the Fire is a miniature board wipe that's not very good, and then Rampaging Raptor is the only actually aggressive mono-red card here. And it's just not the greatest stat line for the cost. The mana sink isn't awesome either. We could head towards blue-red control with a Make Disappear. We could go red-white with Elspeth Conquers Death being the best white card. Monastery Mentor is decent as well if you have a really high non-creature count in your deck. But you do need to build around that a little bit. Probably have at least like 10 non-creatures. Yeah, not in love with this pack as a follow-up to Inferno Titan. There's nothing that's really obvious or simple here. Let's go white here, go for Elspeth Conquers Death. If we take Make Disappear, we could end up in like a Grixis control deck again, though, which is a place I do like to be, because then if we get past Nicol Bolas's, we get to jam those out, but we'll go for the Elspeth Conquers Death. This is a really nice 2-for-1 removal spell. Pick 3, we've got Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which is incredible value for the mana cost. One of the best red cards ever printed. You get a 2-2 that spits out treasure tokens every time it attacks. You get some card selection with that discard ability, and then you get to start cloning whatever you want, and getting a ton of extra damage or a ton of extra enter the battlefield effects with that Reflection of Kiki Jiki. Card is really, really good. Royal Eruption is solid as well. Welcoming Vampire is a good card draw engine. Light Up the Stage is decent card draw. So those are all options too. Or if we wanted to push into Rakdos, Falconwrath Aristocrat's one of the best Rakdos aggro cards, a 4/1 flying haste for 4. But we can stick to just the red here with the Fable, and it's also a great combo with our Inferno Titan. Pick 4, we have the OG Lightning Bolts, probably take that. The most efficient burn spell ever printed. Incredible cheap instant speed removal. 4 damage to our opponent's face. Goldspan Dragon's my second favorite card here, followed by a Wedding Announcement at probably number 3. Just this one kind of similar to Fable, where it's a lot of stats for the mana cost, multiple 1/1s or multiple pieces of card draw, and then an Anthem. I like the Goldspan Dragon a little better than that, though. Just a big haste finisher that also gives you a ton of mana. Pick 5. Okay, this pack is pretty weak. I am not a fan of Mishra's Command in basically any deck, because you do have to overcharge for the amount of damage you're doing, right? It's like 5 mana for 4 damage, 6 mana for 5 damage, and so on. So it's always going to be killing something that's smaller than you want it to. We've got Infernal Grasp for really great removal. We've got Eska's Chariot for a ton of stats for the mana cost, a very beefy card there. I think these are probably the best 2 cards here, pushing towards Rakdos or Gruul. Could also take Elvish Mystic if we push towards Gruul. I'm going to take the Infernal Grasp here, and we will see if we can get like that Olivia to come back. Or not the Olivia. The Falconwrath Aristocrats, the other red-black mythic rare flyer. Pick 6, Rekindling Phoenix is pretty solid. We'll roll with that. Taking that over, nothing much else. Pick 7, we've got an Inti here, which is a great cheap aggressive card. Sky Sovereign's pretty awesome as well. It's very similar to Inferno Titan, just a gigantic threat that also gets to use removal spells every time it attacks and when it hits the board. But I think we're going to go a little lower curve than that, grab an Inti here. We are pretty much locked in on red at this point. Okay, no great black cards, no great red cards. Electrostatic Blast is fine. I think I'd actually like to take Blade Splicer here, though, towards red-white. We do actually wheel Embercleave. Well, now it is literally impossible to deny that red is probably one of the best colors to be in this draft pod. If no one, not a single person out of the other drafters takes Embercleave, and this is a card that is perfectly viable as a pack 1, pick 1. Like, that is a open draft pod to go for red aggro nonsense. Pick 11, Light Up the Stage or Welcoming Vampire. Light Up the Stage is going to be a lot better if we can pull off the full mono red. I would love to do that one time. This might finally be the time that we get to wheel an Embercleave. Let's go for it here. We wheeled an Embercleave. We wheeled basically every red card we've taken so far. Or every red card that we haven't taken. We're at 9 non-land cards right now. We need like 24, 25 to play a 16 or 15 land deck. 9 times 3 is 27, so if things continue at this rate, we can be a full mono red deck. And that would be phenomenal. We do need to make sure that we get a lot of cheap threats, though, or we will have to splash into a secondary color just to make sure that our curve is still pretty aggressive. All right, let's just grab some other white spells for the sideboard. Actually, I'm just not going to play Goblin Bombardment in a mono red deck or a red-white deck, so I'll take the Captain Eberhardt speculatively there. Pack 2, pick 1. All right, well, the best white aggro card in the cube, in my opinion, Adeline, that spits out a human attacking every time that you attack with well, anytime you attack at all. So if you attack with 5 creatures or you attack with 1 creature, you only get 1 human. But the important part about that text is Adeline doesn't have to make the attack. So you can still get the human the turn you play Adeline. Plus, she's just massive with power equal to the number of creatures you control. She's super busted. I think we do have to kind of just be Boros here if we're going to get Adeline. Yeah. Mono red is never going to happen, but that's probably okay because I think we drafted red literally every single draft. So we just still played the way that I enjoy. Take a Glorybringer here, great finisher, flying haste card that also knocks out a blocker when it attacks with the Exert ability. Pick 3, don't love Siege Gang, I think Glorybringer's way better. Devil's Play is not very efficient. Sunfall is not a card for an aggro deck. We'll take a Selfless Savior here. Could be a way to protect Adeline. Pick 4, neither of these cards are good for our aggro nonsense. I'll take Restless Vents, but it is unlikely to get played because we are very likely Boros over anything else. Pick 5. I actually do enjoy Kellen in these kind of decks, where you have a good amount of mana value 3 or less creatures to randomly draw off of the Kellen. I'd take Kellen over the Searing Blood. That Searing Blood is pretty difficult mana-wise. Now I'll take a Cliff Chop Retreat, speaking of difficult mana, although Magda is also fixing, and Magda ramps into big stuff. I do like this card a lot. I don't think pick 6 is late enough. We're not getting anything back out of this. Which is kind of rough, because Portable Hole, Magda, and Clifftop Retreat, I think all 3 of these are more valuable additions than what we've managed to pick up the last pick or 2. Like, these are all better than Selfless Savior or Kellen, and they're all filling a real different role. I guess I'll take the Magda over Clifftop Retreat since they are both fixing. Pick 7? Dang, why is all the good stuff gotta clump up? Now Sacred Foundry has clumped up into the same pack as Intrepid Adversary, which is phenomenal. A 2-mana 3/1 lifelinker just to play as an aggressive threat, but if you top deck it later, you also get to buff your whole board. dumping more mana into putting Valor counters on it. It's also Heartflame Duelist, which is phenomenal for that damage to any target, as well as a creature. So it's like a removal spell on a creature on a stick. I'm going to take the Sacred Foundry there, though. Now I'll take a Pillar of Flame over Selfless Spirit. These are both quite solid. But I do only have the one. I guess I've got two removal spells. We have one small removal, one big removal, and the two removal spell creatures that are high up on the curve. But I could use more cheap burn style removal. I wonder if there's any cards in this cube that care about your number of legends, because we have a lot of legendaries. Every 2-drop in the deck is legendary, which is kind of hilarious. Pick number 9. Paulo has wheeled, as did History of Benalia. Our mana base is probably not going to be great, because we can't get the other red-white duel, the Clifftop Retreat here, so I'm going to take the easier to cast card when these are both like pretty equivalently powerful. They do very different things. History of Benalia makes a wide board state, beefs it up for damage. Elite Spellbinder disrupts your opponent's hand, so kind of disrupts their plan, where whatever you think they were going to cast next turn, you can just tax it and put them off kilter with this, and that can help a lot when you are beating down early. It can really help a lot in any kind of deck, which is why this card is so good. Take a Lightning Strike here. It's a much easier to cast removal spell than the Bodyguard. Once again, if we're not going to get a ton of red-white sources, we're going to need to get some more simple mana costs, hopefully. Things that don't require double white or double red. Speaking of double red, there's Searing Blood. Oh my goodness. 2 cards in the pack, and Clifftop Retreat is still there, and the final card in the pack is Heartflame Duelist. It feels good to be Boros in this draft pod. Good grief. Pack 3, pick 1 now. Wandering Emperor's a real good mid-range and defensive planeswalker. It's not that insane for an aggro deck, because the best thing that it does is exile tapped creatures, or give the first strike there. Still a pretty strong card, might be worth the pick. We're not trying to make it to 7 mana for Atali, we're trying to end the game before we even hit 7 lands, so this is not an Atali deck. So it's really just Molten Impact or the Wandering Emperor. Molten Impact's real good at getting a blocker out of the way, maybe even does it twice thanks to that boon. I think we take the Impact over the Emperor, even though Emperor's a stronger card. Impact is just a better card for our strategy. Pack 3, pick 2, there's another real strong card, Sun Titan, but I think we want more cheap threats, and there are 3 very good options: Adonto, Vanguard, Robber of the Rich, and Bloodthirsty Adversary. I'm going to take the Adversary since it's the most flexible, a 2-drop getting hasting damage in early. That can also be a great top deck, recasting a removal spell later, so we'll take that over the Vanguard, which is basically just a threat, the Robber of the Rich, which is mostly just a threat. Every now and then, you do steal a card from your opponent's deck and you're very happy, but most of the time, just a cheap haster. Pack 3, pick 3, really love Townraiser Tyrant. I think I will take it over Play with Fire or Rip Apart, and we can hope to get one of those back. We should almost definitely get Rip Apart back if we got like Heartflame Duelist back. So we'll wheel the Rip Apart for more removal and take the Townraiser Tyrant for a really good threat. It's a 4/4 flyer, so nice evasive threat that can hit for a good chunk of damage, and it's making your opponent sack one of their lands or take an extra 2 damage every turn, which is really painful for controlling decks with all their triomes and duels and everything. Pick 4, we've got Luminarch Aspirant as the best card here, but yet again, Boros aggro stuff is just wide open. There's also Banalish Knight Counselor, Machias, Abbot of Carol Keep, and Luris. But Luminarch is just an absolute MVP, just snowballing into a ton of stats over time with all those +1/+1 counters. Pick 5, there's Bone Crusher Giant, removal spell, and a creature all on a stick. Super, super good card. Dauntless Bodyguard is also great, but I think Bone Crusher gets the nod by a little bit here. Sorry, Bolas. It could have been a Bolas deck today. We started with Inferno Titan. We took some great cheap red removal like Lightning Bolts and stuff. If we were deeper into black early with Infernal Grasp and more fixing, maybe we could have ended up in Grixis control, but not today. We are going full Boros in the end. Pick 6. These are all pretty medium. I don't really want any has to be tapped red-white duels, but maybe we've got enough difficult mana costs. We should put 1 or 2 like red-white triomes in here. Probably just take Touch the Spirit Realm to exile a big blocker from our opponents. Evangelist seems pretty incredible to me. The Battle Cry ability in an aggressive deck can get a lot of extra damage in, and the ability to make a bat when it hits the board and dies, make sure that it's leaving something behind even if it's dealt with, which is also very good. So I'll take the Evangelist. Showdown is decent card draw. Boros doesn't get a ton of that, but I think Evangelist just on curve seems like a massive amount of potential damage there. Speaking of a massive amount of potential damage, Mephit's Enthusiasm is another great way to clear out blockers in aggressive decks. You clear out their blocker and your next creature is going to be even bigger when you play it, which is nice, but I still think I take Sarah Paragon over that. This is so nice at the top end. Whatever cheaper creatures we've traded with, we can now play this Paragon and just replay them. It's like a flying version of Luris, basically, which is quite nice. Take a Flames of the Firebrand there, not massively excited about it. Sun Titan's kind of like Sarah Paragon, but beefier. It's also more expensive, which is the issue. I think I just take Robber of the Rich. I probably do overvalue this card. It's very rare that I actually do end up casting something from my opponent's deck, but it's such a fun mechanic and just a powerful little haster anyway. We got Play with Fire and Rip Apart back. Take the Rip Apart for main deckable artifact enchantment removal, but I could genuinely see an argument for Play with Fire just because it's instant speed. It's a little more flexible. Like, Rip Apart's more flexible in what it can kill, but being instant speed gives you a lot more use cases for when you'd want to do it. All right, I'm not going to play any of these. Or any of these. So we get to cut 1,000,000 cards because basically everything in this draft pod was red and white. So we've got all these creatures plus a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. 27 creatures. 26 plus Fable. So first off, I think I want to skew really aggressive and cut a lot of these high mana value creatures. So that's going to start with like some of the ones that we just said were mediocre when we took them, like Rampaging Raptor. Cerise is pretty slow. Siege Gang's pretty slow. It's a lot of mana investment. Terror's pretty slow. Maybe even drop Inferno Titan to cut more lands here and just top off the curve at 1 5-drop. Maybe 2 with an Elspeth Conqueror's Death. We'll see when we get to our non-creature cuts if that makes the cut. But yeah, cut some 4-drops too. This is not really an aggro card. Yeah, we're almost never going to want to flip this thing unless we've somehow made 1,000,000 tokens. We can make a couple. Rarely with Blade Splicer and Evangelist if we keep those in. Adeline. Yeah, flipping this seems really rare, and otherwise it's just a 3/5 Vigilance that shoots our opponent when they hit us, or it taxes them when they hit us. It's a little more controlling or mid-ranging than aggressive. It's not really for our game plan. Rekindling Phoenix. It's a pretty resilient threat, but it does still just die to exile removal. It's not the biggest card ever. I like our other 4-drops a little better. Replaying stuff with Sarah Paragon, and really the Town Razor Time. This is my favorite of these. Just the blazing the damage by making them sack a land. So that's 6 cuts. We're still at 20 creatures with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Okay, yeah, cut some of the low mana value stuff now. We've got no flicker synergies for Blade Splicer, so it is just 1/1 and a 3/3 for 3, which is like good. Like really good by regular draft standards, but by cube standards, I think that's a little bit iffy. Without synergies for it. Spellbinder is just better. Evangelist is better. Adeline is better. Bone Crusher is better. Fable, yeah, all the other 3-drops are better. What about 1 and 2 mana cards? We currently have 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Probably want like 8 of these. At least. So I don't really want to cut more than 3. But we could cut... Let's see... How easy is it for us to hit Delirium, and how many non-creatures are we probably going to run? I mean, we're probably running 17 creatures and Fable, so not that many non-creatures. So we aren't triggering the Surveil that often, but do we have lands that end up in the grave? Nope, not unless we Surveil. We don't have artifacts that end up in the grave unless we Surveil them into the grave. But we've got instants and sorceries and creatures, so that's like a start. Yeah, it doesn't seem quite worth it. 2 mana, we've got Captain Eberhart. I mean, there's one dream combo with this card. I guess we've got a couple different little dream combos. This card's not going to be particularly good by itself. But... the big but here. If we have a Luminarch Aspirant on the board, that goes pretty nuts. If we have an Inti on the board, that's another way to put +1/+1 counters on it. And we have Maul the Skyclaves. Turn 2 Eberhart, turn 3 Maul the Skyclaves is 6 damage in the sky. I'm going to try him out. It might not be the best idea ever. Creature count now is at 18 plus that Fable, so we still need to cut like 2 more. Maybe we drop the Kellen. Got a lot of 3/1s and a lot of cards that spit out extra damage. Maybe drop the Magda too. If we're going to cut this curve down like it has been. We still have a Fable spitting out treasures. There's still 1 random treasure producer in here. And we're pretty low curve, so we don't really need it. Yeah, Magda Kellen or Magda Heartflame Duelist. Again, Heartflame Duelist just being the weaker version of Bone Crusher. In aggro mirrors, Heartflame Duelist is like a... Never mind. I was going to say it's like an auto win, because then all of our burn spells gain us a bunch of life too. But that's not true. If it's an aggro mirror, we play this and they just play with Fire It. Like, they can just shock it off the board pretty easily. Most of the time. I mean, we only need to cut 1 or 2 more creatures. Maybe this also goes back to how I was saying I probably overvalue Robber of the Rich. Like, when's the last time I've actually cast anything off this? When's the last time this wasn't a 2 mana 2/2 with no text? Honestly, I can't remember casting a single spell off of this during this cube season, and I've drafted it 2 or 3 times. So it has literally just been a 2 mana 2/2 haste, period. Yeah. That does actually sound weaker than the other 3 when you put it that way. So we'll put Magda, Kellen, and Heartflame back in, so 17 creatures in Fable. Really high creature count, but we're real aggressive, so I think we are cool with that. So currently we've got 2 big equipment as win conditions. We have a big removal spell with Elspeth Conquers Death, Touch the Spirit Realm's another big removal, and then a bunch of mid-range removal. With all these burn spells, we need to cut 7 of these cards. Or some combination of creatures, because again, we're at basically 18 creatures right now, so we can cut a few if we feel like these spells are all just better. So Lightning Bolt is definitely the best of just all this stuff, probably. Embercleave and Maul, I don't imagine I can convince myself to cut those, because I love those as win conditions. But from there on, most of these I'd be willing to part with. So some combination of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I get to put 8 of these back in. So we could like pick the, or not 8 of these, I get to put 2 of these back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I get to put 2 of these back in. I don't know where I got the number 8. So we picked the 2 that seem most important to the game plan. Honestly, it feels like just cheap burn in general, although Bone Crusher, Heart Flame are filling that role. Here's a 3 mana, 3 damage burn spell. Here's a 2 mana, 2 damage burn spell there. I don't think we really need card draw. We don't have a ton of card draw up here, but Sarah Paragon can recast stuff from Grave. Kellen can maybe draw into stuff. And we just have a lot of 2-for-1s and resilient threats and stuff. Cards that are spitting out multiple bodies off the one card to give us some value there. And we're not trying to outvalue our opponent. We're just trying to race them and kill them before they do anything crazy. So I don't think Light Up the Stage is really necessary. Well, the one thing that I did forget is we are cutting probably 2 lands here, even with a 6-drop, because we have 2 treasure producers, Magda and Fable. So that means we actually get to put 4 of these back in if I cut 2 lands. Okay, that makes me feel a lot better, because then we get to have a little variety in our non-creature spells. I did say I get to have a little variety, but I think all the best ones are just burn spells that I'm going to play. Like Molten Impact's really good at getting stuff out of the way. Lightning Strike can get something out of the way, and it can shoot face. Pillar's really cheap. Getting something small out of the way. 1 more card goes in the deck. Main deck Naturalize with Rip Apart, maybe? I don't think it's Searing Blood again, because that double red's a little hard. But again, we can cast that later, so maybe it's not terrible. It's probably not Elspeth Conquers Death, because also keeping the curve lower feels important. I guess we could put in one way to deal with really big creatures with this Touch the Spirit Realm. None of our other removal deals with big creatures outside of the white removal, the Touch the Spirit Realm and the Elspeth Conquers Death. Seems fine. Yeah, I'll just put the Touch the Spirit Realm in, so we can get rid of just big, dorky green blockers if our opponent resolves an Elder Gargaroth or something. Got one way to maybe get that out of the way without throwing 2 burn spells at it. Okay, well, this is looking pretty great to me. Pretty excited about this one. We've got 13 red cards, 12 white cards, so 1 more red source than white sources if it's odd. Makes sense to me. We will call it a deck here. Alright, here's our final deck list for today. This is another really sweet looking Boros aggro deck. Hopefully I can do a little bit better than last time, because this does feel like the power level of a potential 7 winner if we play really well and we get some decent matchups. So pretty excited about this. Again, the basic Boros aggro stuff, a great curve of aggressive creatures, and plenty of burn spells and other removal to clear the path to make sure that we keep beating down with all this stuff. We have a lot of the S tier, just best threats in the cube, like Adeline, that's an entire army in a can, Luminarch Aspirant, that's buffing our board every single turn, Elite Spellbinder, that gets to hinder our opponent's game plan with some hand disruption, Town Razor Tyrant can blow up one of their lands or deal extra damage to them, Glorybringer is a big finisher that also shoots one of their creatures. Inferno Titan's a big creature that also shoots multiple creatures. And yeah, we've really just got basically everything you would want in Boros. So hopefully we can draw the right stuff at the right time and get the right matchups here. But we'll find out soon enough as we head into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game 1. This is a rough keep because we can't cast any threats till turn 4 unless I top deck a white source. Kind of feel like we have to mulligan. We have to be hitting the ground running and start putting threats on the board as quickly as possible. And this hand can actually do that starting turn 2. So we ditch the 6-drop to guarantee that we go 2-drop, 3-drop and get that ball rolling. And the Kellen, if they don't immediately kill him, can surveil a bunch and make sure that we're not flooding out, because any extra lands we see on top we can start milling. Fable and Sanguine Evangelist don't do anything the second they hit the board, so we attack first and see if Kellen draws a better card to play. There's Captain Eberhart as an option. The reason to play Captain Eberhardt here would be that I could play that and Pillar of Flame the Vran. It's kind of exciting. Stop them from draining us for life. I can still just Pillar of Flame Vran next turn and play another 3-drop, which seems better. Let's play the Evangelist here and just get the widest, most aggressive board possible right now. Probably Fable plus Pillar this turn. The Liliana of the Last Hope, which is fantastic against 1 toughness creatures. Luckily, Evangelist is a very good card and is going to spit out a bat for us when it dies anyway, but they didn't kill the Evangelist. They killed the bat. So I still get Battlecry triggers here? Well, that's exciting. So let's Pillar the Vran so Liliana has no protection. We get to kill Liliana and Vran and then see what we draw. Feels good. We draw Bone Crusher Giant, which is pretty phenomenal. Drop a Fable the Mirror Breaker. Now we've got removal for their next blocker, if it's small enough. Languish. Well, that's annoying, but at least they didn't kill Evangelist earlier, so we do get our 1/1 flyer out of this. Let's ditch a land for a card here. Find Town Razor Tyrant, but they're all on basics, so this doesn't actually have an ETB effect. Okay. 4/4 flyer still feels pretty good when my other options are basically playing something that I could play as a burn spell when there's nothing to burn, basically. So Lord Skitter doesn't do anything if we kill it here. Like, they're going to get 1 rat, but the rat can't block, so it's not going to help them defend at all. So let's Heart Flame the Skitter. Get a little bit ahead in value there. And we'll have the mana up for Eberhardt or the Duelist itself. Eberhardt hits a little less hard than the Duelist, but it does tax whatever they draw into, which could annoy them. It's only 1 less damage on board. I'll go for Eberhardt. Yawgmoth. That is really good with rat tokens. They get to draw a card and kill a 1/1. Sacking this rat. Okay. It's protection from humans. Captain Eberhardt is a human. Great. Same with Heartflame Duelist. This Yawgmoth is just going to wreck my soul. They're non-legendary you control, so we have no plays, basically. Just get got by Yawgmoth now. Yeah, the world is their oyster. We don't really have anything we can do right now. I guess I can Bone Crusher face, but then I don't have any backup removal here. But Bone Crusher would be a creature that can actually attack into the Yawgmoth on future turns. I'll hold on to the Bone Crusher for removal. And in case they have like a Meat Hook Massacre or something. Morbid Opportunist. They are really going to swing this one back around. Ayara's Oathsworn. You know what's really frustrating? Actually, because Yawgmoth is an instant speed free sack outlet, if I target Oathsworn with the Stomp to try to kill it, they can sack it in response and my Bone Crusher goes to grave because Stomp doesn't have a legal target anymore. That's actually so bad for me. Yeah, Yawgmoth is just the nutter butters. I was gonna Bone Crush the face, but then I stopped here because if I top deck another burn spell, we can double shoot Yawgmoth. Like, if we can't kill Yawgmoth, we can't win. Oh my god. There's a Woe Strider for 2 creatures alongside Yawgmoth. We could draw into Glorybringer, Touch the Spirit Realm, Molten Impact, Lightning Strike, Lightning Bolt. Got a lot of outs, but they might already be too late, honestly. Again, I can't really play one toughness cards because I just play one. They draw 2 cards because they draw one from Opportunist and one from Yawgmoth and kill it. Like they sack Woe Strider, draw 2 cards, kill my card. This card is just a nightmare. Which is very fitting flavorfully. Alright, well, now we've got nothing to get out of this. So we need to kill a Yawgmoth and a Liliana. They're drawing like 3 cards a turn now. They're at 11. Yeah, we're moving on to game 2. Here we are for game 2 on the draw, unfortunately. Not a perfect start either game so far. We had to mulligan our first one. This time we're on the draw. But at least we didn't have to mull this time. Got a little more action to work with here. It's just the same deck. Could be bad. Kellen attacks into Vran perfectly fine. We'll play Kellen and then stomp Vran. If we don't find something better to do. Stone Coil Serpent. Actually pretty annoying. 3/3. Molten Impact the Stone Coil, and then the next burn spell I play has additional value. Sure. I put that in my graveyard. We need mana right now. More than we need more burn spells. Okay. Four body. It's not great for me. Drop Adeline here and pass. They're like a Maul of the Skyclaves on Adeline. If they don't have removal, then Adeline takes this game over. They do have removal. We are pretty out of luck here. We don't really have any other options. Like, I can kill the Vran and then die the Revenant if they kill Adeline. I guess just hard casting Bone Crusher gives us a 4/4 blocker. Yeah, we need to see what their instants are here. Right now, we can attack in fully on board. I imagine they're just killing Adeline. Yeah, so it's very good that we didn't just throw Maul onto Adeline. Alright, there's land 4 by the time our opponent has 6 mana on board next turn. So that will not be very fun. But at least it has arrived. Yikes. They are more than stable enough to get great value off that. I imagine they rip out the Inferno Titan because I'm just going to play Bone Crusher next turn. Like, Magda's not going to matter for several turns either, and Inferno Titan's the much more impactful card. For when I will be casting a non-Bone Crusher Giant card. They're still just going to get rid of Magda. Alright. And now we lose because they are going to search their library for their best play and play it. Let's see what it is, at least. Shamil the Inner Sun. If that doesn't hit a creature, they could just die. Yeah? I mean... Put a creature card from a graveyard on the battlefield under their control? Okay, luckily Yawgmoth isn't as good this game as it was last game, but that's really... tilting. Okay. I mean, they know we have Embercleave, but... we do this because they still have to just block Bone Crusher. And take a million. Go to 3 life. To where if I resolve Inferno Titan, they die. So none of these cards gain life in their graveyard. We don't have a haste creature in our grave, do we? They don't just get to haste kill us? No, we don't. We'll see. Uh-oh, Vran for life gain could be a problem. They need one of their creatures to die to gain the life, though, right? Grave Titan, Vran, Grave Titan doesn't do it. Unless they discover something here. Cut down? Oh my god. No, they cut down the Kellen! Okay, I was gonna say they could have cut down one of their zombie tokens and then we just lose. Oh my god, that was an incredibly close game there. I was certain we were losing that one because we stumbled on the lands a few turns with that Inferno Titan in hand. And the Embercleave and the Maul of the Skyclave's much weaker on the draw here when we're not in as good of an aggressive position. Yeah, we still could have maybe lost that game because if they cut down their own zombie token to trigger Vran, they might still die because of Embercleave. But they wouldn't die to just Inferno Titan. They'd be at 1 life. Embercleave is 10 damage right now, so they need to block with 10 toughness. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They'd probably still lose. Yeah, they'd have to block with 10 toughness. They wouldn't have this zombie anymore. So they'd have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 toughness. They have to block Bone Crusher with their entire board, which means that since they hadn't cut down the Kellen would just kill them at that point. Do the final 2 damage, since Inferno Titan would have only put them to 1. Okay. Oh, stressful game, but real lucky ending. We do not get just destroyed by the mono black deck twice in a row. We'll take it. We are 1-1 heading into game 3. Here we are on the play for game number 3 with a mono-colored hand. I don't think we can really keep that, although it's 1 mountain from greatness here. We do have a 2-drop. Still got a mulligan, though. Okay, this is much better mana-wise, so we keep this. A little bold to ditch a land, but I'm gonna do it here. Because we do have Inti to discard a non-land and try to exile a land. That can be a plan. Should play the Aspirant first, I think, against a green deck. They might not have cheap removal, so just snowballing up the Aspirant itself could be good. Alright, they're green-black. They can blow up the Aspirant at any point. Molten Impact to get rid of their mana. Seems decent. Could also just bolt it or lightning strike it. I could use anything against that. Could also try to draw land here. And hit for 4 damage right now. Yeah, I've got 3 different burn spells. I think we can ditch lightning strike to see if we can hit land for turn. And even if we don't hit land for turn, we've dug closer. Oh, Bone Crusher. Very sad. NT hit. Very sad NT hit. If we hit the mountain, we would basically just immediately win the game, because then we go Mountain, Bolt, Scrap Gorger, and then they don't have the 4 mana for Chariot there. Well, that's a very easy choice for what to discard. If I attack in with something that's smaller than 4/4, they're just gonna crew Chariot and kill it. That's pretty annoying. It's like a pre-combat kill one of these, so they have to crew Chariot, but I don't have the mana to then kill the Chariot with Molten Impact. No, I think I just have to attack in with a 5/5 Luminarch Aspirant here. Please give me the land, I am begging. This whole 15 land plan has not been working out. Oh, I swear to God. These hits are so bad, we're straight up just discarding cards. We already mulliganed to 6, and we've discarded 2 additional cards, so it's almost like we mulliganed 2 more times looking for lands. Is it like the Moldafor? Can we win on the Moldafor? If they don't have interaction, then yes. This has just not been a good string of games for this deck, even if we did win one of them. I'm going to impact the Scrap Gorger here. I've got nothing else to do with this mana, and now our Lightning Bolt is 4 damage at instant speed, so we can instant speed bolt Essica's Chariot on a future turn. Crew and attack is a little bit bold here, but it could also just mean they have a chunk of removal. Nope, it's a Shieldred, which is also a nightmare. Getting to the next end step. Ay, these draws. We're 12 cards deep right now. Shieldred does have the Death Touch. So I guess we have to just trade with a Shieldred here at this point. Fairly sure. I probably should have discarded Fable at this point. Sweet Lord Almighty, there's a land. 13 cards in. We found land 3. Thanks for telling me what's blocking what, Arena. Very cool. Arena's just full of visual glitches lately. Yeah, this works. Put them to, what, 6 life? No more life gain on their board. And we drop a Fable. We are never breaking through all these cats, though. We just stumbled way too hard on mana. I am, like, count my eggs before they hatch here and saying that we've lost, but I don't know how we don't. Unless our opponent plays way too aggressively, there shouldn't be any way we can hit them again for the rest of the game. Yeah. All right, GG. They're back up to 12 now. I don't think there's any top decks that kill them, so I just keep Lightning Bolt. Yeah, y'all are a little too late, Land Clump. Game 4 it is. All right. Here we are, Game 4. On the draw. But we actually have both of our colors. In our opening hand, we don't have to mulligan. Will we ever assemble an opening hand that doesn't have to mulligan and is on the play? That's the question. That is asking too much today. Get the goose out of the way so they don't ramp up here. And we'll slam down a 4-3 next turn. Ooh, Virtue of Persistence is super nice. Oh, they are stuck on 2 mana. This Town Razor Tyrant is going to be devastating. Alright, Preacher the Schism. I will take a trade here. Because I'm casting Town Razor Tyrant for sure. They are not going to go for the trade. Here's Town Razor Tyrant on green, black, blue source, I guess. Don't think it really matters. They can't really afford to sack a land regardless. They also can't afford to take the damage, and that is what is so good about Town Razor Tyrant sometimes. Take the damage it is. The Preacher of the Schisms can spit out some lifelinking vampire tokens, so that may be their justification here. Definitely no blocks. Go for the Throat the Town Razor Tyrant. Well, their land is still burning, even without our Town Razor Tyrant. They're at 13 life here. I think we Glorybringer the Preacher. Unless they have a second 2-mana instant speed removal spell. There is an argument for letting the Preacher stay. But then they keep getting the 1/1 lifelinking blockers on the ground. But the main argument for letting Preacher stay is that way our flying creature does get to untap next turn. We don't have to exert it. Alright, opponent does lose the game. They just roped us out in the last few turns there. Which is fair. That is a mood. That's how I was feeling with our first couple losses. Here we are for Game 5, continuing the very solid draws. We are on the draw here, though. So don't get to just roll our opponent over here. But this is a great hand. Even if we don't get to be the full aggro on the play. No! This hand would have been insane with that on turn 1. 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop curve of perfection. But now we go 2-drop, 3-drop, and on turn 4 we can play a 3-drop and a 1-drop together. To still be perfectly mana efficient from turn 2 onward. Jacob Hawken, Inspector. They've got a single red mana up. That should not be able to counter an Adeline, so here we go. And Kellen draws us a card, finding Captain Eberhardt. If we draw a 3-drop, we could play Eberhardt and the 3-drop in the same turn, which would be pretty cute. Bone Crusher, my 1/1 human. Sad day for the Bone Crusher Giant. Okay, that is not a 3-drop, so... let's just send in holding up Embercleave to save Adeline, and then just play some post-combat creatures if we don't need to Embercleave to protect Adeline. I guess I would also Embercleave to make Kellen kill the Bone Crusher. That's an alternate use that's decent enough to me. I didn't realize that the human that Adeline makes would also count towards the Embercleave. That's super sick. That means I probably should not have played my land for turn yet. I thought I was going to need it. Pact of Negation, the Embercleave. That's actually pretty spicy for our opponent. And yeah, now I can't Pillar Flame the Bone Crusher because I thought it was going to take 4 mana to Embercleave. At least they have to tap out this turn. They don't get to do anything. We can Inti for a counter on Adeline, so they can't kill Adeline. Seems legit. Did I draw this Inti this turn? No, this was in our hand already. We drew this Plains. Say if we did, maybe I want to Eberhardt first. I'm gonna enlist the 1/1 to make this big enough to attack into the Bone Crusher also. Oh boy, that's a lot of abilities to keep track of here. Yeah, so we discard a card for a counter on Adeline and trample on Adeline. Alright, Night Counselor trades for Bone Crusher, they go down to 9. We play this Exiled Plains and Fable, I think. They could have a board wipe in blue-red, so maybe better not to play another threat. It's relatively rare, though. There's only... I guess there are actually quite a few, but most of them are just 2 damage to everybody, so we keep Adeline through most of the board wipes. 2 to everybody, 3 to everybody. There's the one that does 5 damage to everyone, but I think there's only one red board wipe in the cube that does 5 damage to everybody. And that is the burn down the house. Cast one of these for free each turn. One of these for free during each of their turns. That's pretty gross. A free Agent of Treachery. I can hit them for 5 with Pillar Flame Lightning Bolt. Probably get them here. Block, block, take 1, 2, 3. Go to 6 life. That's 1 damage off. Or 1 damage from killing them. Yeah, that blows. Block, block. 1, 2, 3. 6 life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage. Has some for free next turn again. Go ham. Let's still maximize our damage output here. This might be a bad idea, but we get to put them to 1 with several creatures still on our board. Well, 2 creatures still on our board, but we get to play more post-combat. Oh my god. Heartflame Duelist off the top? That's lethal with the treasure. Yeah, they need to show me a 1-mana counterspell here. I don't think they have one. Really nice luck off of the NT in the end of that game there. It was really, really paying off for some of those stumbles in the early game, some of that poor luck there, so... Alright. I mean, if things continue this way, obviously we could get a 7-win run with these really solid draws we've been having, but all it takes is a single another game like our first couple losses, and we will be out at 3-3, 50-50. Either way, feels real good to turn a 1-2 start into at least an average 50-50 win rate from here on out. We are heading into game number 6, 3-2. Alright, Magda can give us the white source. Or ramp into the Glorybringer. It's an awkward hand. But maybe worth it to just keep the 7. We're on the draw again. Trying to drag my cards around, but I can't drag them until I keep. It's a sign. We have to keep. That way I can drag Savior to the other end. Oh my god. Now this is probably better than our average 6-card hand. Ooh, Jadar is annoying. I think I still have to Magda first and let them hit me with the 2-2 one time. So they hit me with the 2 to replace it, get another one. Oh, Gix though. Gix though. Do I sacrifice Selfless Savior to stop them from drawing a card? Probably not. We just killed Gix with Molten Impact now. And then we Glorybringer Jadar soon enough. At least they have to lose the life here. Give us some extra damage. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I've got the mana to play Fable plus Banalish Knight Commander, but I really have to just kill the Gix. But I do have 4 mana this turn. Yeah, let's just kill the Gix. Attack with both, because either way we're trading Selfless Savior into Jadar. If they block. Sure. Black-white. There's a Thraben Inspector for value, so another piece of card draw for our opponent. And thanks to Magda, we get to play a Glorybringer this turn. Which I shall do. I think it actually is worth exerting here. Enlisting is the same amount of damage. I think it's worth exerting here. Because it's kind of like the same amount of damage either way. If I don't exert and kill this Thraben Inspector, then I can't really attack on the ground, because any trades into Inspector are bad. Sack a non-token creature. Well, I've already gotten the enlist value, I think. So I'm going to sack Magda. So I can still get the 4 damage. I mean, I guess we'll see how this works. I still get +2/+0, right? Yes. Nice. They're down to 10. Yeah, I've got 4 lands and 1 treasure. I don't think I need the Magda anymore. She's not any more valuable than the 2/1 that can enlist. So I'll keep that one around since it's only slightly worse than her, and by keeping that one around, I do get to shoot for a bunch there. Well, I've got 5 mana up for Embercleave, which doesn't kill my opponent, but it is good. Kind of hate that I don't have removal for Luris, because it's a lifelinker and they can recast Jadar, Gix, or Thraben Inspector. Some good options. I'm supposed to play Inti here. I'm not going to do any discarding, so I don't imagine so. I think I'm keeping the Cleave and then playing these 2 post-combat and going for a Cleave victory next turn. Get an NT counter onto something and cleave it up. Oh, Luris can't cast 3 mana spells. Ooh, they've got Luris Selfless Spirit, though, for the indestructible loops. Get indestructible every turn. Ooh, Luminarch Aspirant pre-combat too. Urgh. Okay, now they should almost definitely be dead, right? To Embercleave. Let's have 2 different 4-power attackers, so I can put Cleave onto either of those. Exert that. Actually, I can do this really fancy. Have 3 different 4-power attackers that are all lethal with Cleave. And I still have exactly enough to play the Cleave. Target the Luris, that makes them pop the Spirit right now. Double block Inti. Well, that's 8 damage on board. They're at 11 right now. Cleave on this kills them and saves Inti. So, we'll do that. There's the concession. We are now 4-2 heading into game number 7. Here we are for game 7. This is definitely not keepable. Our best threat is a double white card and we have 2 mountains in hand. This is a magical mana base that dreams are made of. Okay, now I've got a Maul to throw onto the Goblin token or the adversary. Just gonna play 2 threats and beef them way up. What happened to the Kamigawa lands? Why are there so many visual glitches, Arena? That's so sad. They don't even have the kanji for the actual names of the lands anymore. R.I.P. Kamigawa Full Arts. R.I.P. Oh my god, R.I.P. me. That is one of the best spell pierces that I have been crushed by. How do they not have any non-basics? That is tremendously disappointing for us. Our opponent has the perfect interaction right now. 1 mana to stop my 2-drop, 1 mana to stop my 3-drop, and now we're just behind from the mulligan. Oh no. Now the hostage taker on Town Razor Tyrant to just play it against me next turn for another 2-for-1. I'm already down a card, and now I have 2 equipment in hand with no creatures. Well, we lost. GG. God, how does this happen? This is twice in a row with these Boros decks. And the Maul and the Embercleave again just stuck in hand each time. This is ridiculous. I am once again going to repeat. The last 2 decks we've drafted, the last 2 Arena Cube drafts, these decks have been some of the strongest, in my opinion. You're literally 1 turn too late. You buffoon! Everything just lines up nightmarishly for our 3 losses. 2 days in a row. 1 mana to stop our Fable. Plus we mulliganed, so we were already down 1 card. Then they played the 2-for-1 removal spell, which I found the removal for the turn after it mattered. If I drew this card literally 1 turn sooner, I would have stopped the 2-for-1, gotten my Town Razor Tyrant back. Literally everything stacks up against us here. We're just going to lose to Hawkins Insight this time around. And of course, yeah, the double equipment when they've dealt with all 3 of our threats. This is declining in case we hit like an Inferno Titan, so I'm going to take action and we'll top deck our 1/6 drop. No, we hit a land. Alright, taking action was correct. Speaking of things lining up as poorly as possible, they top-decked their non-basic after we played our Town Razor Tyrant. They do have dual lands in there, they just didn't have them in time for us to actually punish them for their non-basics.
Nice to see a familiar face.
We don't have any chance of winning this game, so now you have all just entered the Gauntlet complaining room. Okay, I'm going home. Yeah, another day, another disappointing Boros Tiltfest. Again, I think the deck today and the deck yesterday has been incredibly powerful. Things have just not lined up well for them. And we dropped to 4-3, which is a reasonable run on average, but still a very bad run based on the win rate we've had this season. 4-3 is basically an 0-3. Our 3 records we get this season is 4-3, 5-3, or 6-3. That's all it is. Those are the 3 records we can get in these cube drafts for some reason. So that just makes 4-3s feel so miserable because it's like, that's the bottom. That's the worst we've done this season. And I don't feel like this deck was the worst deck we've drafted this season. I think it's far from it. I don't think that we made the worst plays that we've made this season. I think it's far from that, too. I don't think we did anything super smart gameplay-wise, but I just don't think there were very many gameplay decisions that mattered today. Yeah, is what it is. Another 4-3, slightly above average, but feels pretty bad run. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.